Hi, my name's Salvatore Sorce. I'm one of the voice trainers here at the London School of English. What we're looking at today is French into English pronunciation, the challenges that one may find coming from a French background and trying to assimilate French sounds into English pronunciation. Before we start, I want to make very clear this disclaimer that when we come to learning a different language and we come to learning be specific about the sounds that we're creating within the language, there can be a lot of opinion on the sounds that we make as being right or wrong. And I want to dispel that right now. There is no such thing as right or wrong, it's just different. The sounds that you make in French are unique to the sounds that you make in French, and the sounds that we make in English are unique to the sounds that we make in English. All I'm trying to do here is not say what is right and what is wrong, but actually offer you an option to bridge the gap between the two. There are specific differences, there are specific challenges that each language will face, because what we're looking at here is creating a new muscular habit, because that's all speech really is. It's creating sounds through the use of muscles working in a certain way. So all we're doing as far as when we're working in a different language, whether it be English, whether it be Japanese, whether it be French, whether it be Russian, is actually training our mouths into a different muscular habit. That's all. Okay? So let's just take that stress off ourselves right now. I think one of the major things that we need to look at is the importance of setting, the face setting when we're speaking a different language. And I would say even more so with the French, because the French setting tends to be a little bit more forward, lips protrude slightly a little bit more forward because of the certain sounds that you make, the vowel sounds, the lips kind of tend to take on a little bit more of a forward position. Because of that, to facilitate that, what happens is the jaw tends to go into a more closed position, or a mid to closed position. Compare that against the English. The English has three specific jaw positions, and it works. I always try and use a visual to aid me in helping a student understand. So if I'm going to work on three very specific vowels right now, and I'll just show you what the positions are. They're minute. Let's be very, very clear, they're minute, but they are important to distinguish the difference in sounds. So, the three vowels I'm going to work on are E, and R. Now, if you were watching my mouth, you could see the jaw actually moving, but I'm going to actually show you physically. So I'm going to place my fingertip against my teeth. E, R. You can clearly see my jaw moving. I'll do it again. E, R. Those are three different vowels made in three different positions of the jaw. If I don't allow those positions of the jaw to happen, the vowel changes. Now, why I'm saying this is because if you are continuously using your mouth in a certain setting, particularly coming from a different country, what you're only going to get is an assimilation of the sound of your natural sounds into what you think the new sounds are. So they're always going to have that quality of the native sound. Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, so the things that I really want us to focus on then is the consonant changes here, because vowels, to be honest, there's an awful lot of work that goes on with the vowels, and particularly in French, some amazing, beautiful sounds. I mean, it's why we all get charmed by the French accent, whether it be by a man or a woman. It's the most beautiful sound, most romantic. But I'm not going to work on vowels, I'm going to work on specifically consonant changes. So, the ones that I'm going to focus on today are the French R versus the English R, and the rules of R, and why we can tend to hear R placed in the weirdest of places. We'll look at the light L and the dark L. So the light L is what is used definitely in French, but the dark L is what we use additionally in the UK. We'll look at the voiceless sounds, the fricative, the TH, and we'll also look at the voiced fricative sound, the TH, the, and see the changes that happen there. And then what I'm going to offer you is a short little tidbit on what may help with your clarity in your spoken English. Working very closely with some French clients recently, I realized there was only so much that I could do up to that point. Let me be very, very clear on that. It's not saying that you come in and do an intensive amount of training for a certain amount of time and you're going to bang, you're going to sound English. No, it's all about allowing your body to assimilate these exercises so you develop from there. Would you go out and play golf the very first time or tennis the very first time and act like a pro? No, it takes practice. So, exactly the same thing with pronunciation. So, let's have a look then at one of the major consonant changes that happens from the French into the English, and that is the quality of the R. Now, this is a sound that I don't do perfectly, I'll be honest, but it's a fascinating sound. But it's also a sound that draws a lot of the pronunciation back into the mouth. The English R is made at the very, very front of the mouth. It's the tongue tip curling, releasing, and the lips being involved in that as well. The French R is made at the back of the mouth in an area called the velum, or the velar. So what you will hear, the difference between an English R would be R, and a French R would be R. So we are literally, it's almost, it's kind of vibrating the back of the tongue against that part that hangs down at the back of the mouth. I'm not going to even try to show you right now. You need a really good zoom. But what happens there is that the R is, the mouth has to become slightly constricted. I always think of it a bit like a door wedge. So the thin part of the wedge is here at the back of the mouth, whichever way you want to look at it, and the sound vibrates against the tongue and the velum. So what we get is the sound, rouge, rouge, yeah? So what happens then is that that sound has to travel forward into this slightly open front position. Now, generally, as I showed you before, within English, we have three jaw positions. So we have the closed position, we have the mid position, then we have the open position. Now, can you see now why this is going to be a challenge for a French speaker who is habitually in that position? So what I always try to do is really work on the jaw with the French client, and I do specific exercises. So I'm going to take a few moments to show you some specific exercises that I like to work on. And then we'll really have a look at the breakdown of the R. This may take a few minutes, but don't worry, I'll guide you through it very, very carefully. So I want you to take 3 fingers, and we're going to place them here and here on the sides of the hairline. In this area here, we have a muscle called the temporalis muscle, which is a large fan-shaped muscle which covers this part of the skull. This connects down into the muscle, the masseter muscle, which holds the jaw. If this muscle is tight, this muscle is going to be tight. If you are constantly working in this tight position of speech, all you're going to do is end up in that tight position of speech. So we have to loosen these muscles to loosen these muscles. So I'm just going to very, very quickly take you through this. So I always do things in 3s, it's just so much easier, just easy to remember. So 3 fingers against the temples. All we're going to do now is we're going to massage the scalp and not shampoo the hair. Let's be very clear of this. I'm not getting you to do this, I'm getting you to massage the scalp. So if you can see against the side of my head, what I'm doing here is I'm doing backward circles. 1, 2, 3. It's like you're giving yourself a slight little massage. It's gorgeous. Taking a diagonal position, step back by about a couple of centimeters, and again 1, 2, 3, and again 1, 2, 3, and again 1, 2, 3, up to the crown. 1, 2, 3. You're going to do that 3 times. Basically what you're doing is breaking down the tensions and the toxins that the scalp muscle has within it. So it releases those tensions and toxins, so it makes this a lot easier to work with. So you should have done that 3 times by now. Remember, the circles are backwards. Okay? We're then going to take those fingers and we're going to place them again at the hairline, and this time we're going to drag them back. You're giving yourself a little mini facelift. So you're dragging this, the scalp back to the crown. That's all, and you're doing that 3 times. We're then going to take the fat part of the thumb and place it here at this point called the temporomandibular joint, I know this isn't anatomical, I'm sorry, but it does actually make a difference. So where the jaw and the skull connect, and you're working on the muscle there, and you're using this part of the thumb, and you're doing forward little circles. And they don't have to go onto your face, you're not washing your face, it's literally just here. 1, 2, 3, and when you get down to the third, just drag the jaw down, gently down. We've got jaw space suddenly. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3. Drag it down. And one more time. 1, 2, 3. Drag it down. Keep that position. Another thing that may help you, which has just been an inspiration given to me, is someone yawning. So we're going to, if yawning helps you, just think all you're trying to do is get the back teeth away from each other. There. One of the things I also use with my clients when I'm working with them is getting them to use the tongue in that jaw position. So we're saying something like ya ya ya, ya ya ya, or yo yo yo, ya ya ya, yo yo yo, ya ya ya, yo yo yo. Now if you've got someone who's been speaking from rouge position, that's going to feel very different. That's okay, it's just the difference. What I'm trying to do here is that thin part of the wedge, increase the amount of space that it has there, so you don't get that tightness where that R is going to be formed. So you're allowing the tip of the tongue, eventually when you do use the R, to do it freely with no constriction at the back. So the difference between the English R and the French R. Again, it's different, not what is wrong or right. So the French R is made at the back with the tongue against the velum, and it is pronounced, is used like this. So we use it in rouge as an example. Now, in the English R is literally used, the tongue tip comes to curl up against the alveolar ridge, and then it just releases forward. I don't know if you can see that clearly on the camera, but I'll open my mouth up a little bit more. And the lips work in conjunction with this. So I want you to think that you're making a W. So what happens is we bring the two things together and we work on red, rose, Robin, Richard, right. Those are examples of the R sound. Now, the English R is only ever used in the Southern English R, because wherever you go in the country, it's always going to change. So the dialect is always going to inform that. The English R, we only use the R sound before a vowel. Yeah. So red, Richard, right. They're all vowel sounds. If you listen to the R at the end of the word, it's not used. So I will say the word rather. Now there is very clearly in the spelling an R, but we don't pronounce it. So anything after a vowel, any R after a vowel, you don't use it at all. Okay? All right then, so we've looked at the French and English R and the rules of R. There are plenty more things to talk about here. Believe me, this is not a complete summary of English pronunciation by any means. But what I'm giving you here is little tips and tricks in which to help you with your pronunciation. So we'll look at the light L and the dark L. Definitely the French love to use that light L, so that's a very light quality to the tip of the tongue. So the tip of the tongue literally works from the top of the mouth behind the front top teeth and drops gracefully down behind the bottom teeth. So light, light, light. So can you see what's going on there? It's very simple, it's very easy. There is no tension in it. It's literally a raise and release, raise and release, raise and release. Conversely, when we're working with the dark L is a different sound. It's a deeper sound, it's a more resonant sound, it's a longer sound. So I want you to we'll break down the steps of how to make the dark L. The dark L works primarily, firstly, you bring the back of the tongue into play by saying the word sing and hold that sound, sing. Your tongue tip should be behind your lower teeth. Now, all I ask you to do is make that sound again, sing, and bring the tongue tip up behind the front top teeth. Single, single, single. What should happen here is the back of the tongue is raised, the front of the tongue was behind the bottom teeth here, and now it's going to jump up and go to behind the top teeth. So it's almost like you're creating a hammock, or almost like a banana shape within the mouth. But what's really great about that is that you get that longer quality of the sound there. So we use these sounds in different places. Let me be very clear on that. So the light L will always go before a vowel sound. So light, long, lovely, little, okay? The dark L will always go after a vowel sound. So we will use it in tall, full, ball. But if we have a vowel sound come after that double L, which is at the end of the word, so if I said full, and then I put a vowel sound like putting a Y there, and it suddenly changes into fully, because it's before a vowel sound again, so it has to change back into a light L. If that's getting too technical, don't worry about it. Focus purely on the dark L that you will use. Tall, fall, ball, chill, cold, old, milk. Okay? All these are dark L sounds. Just remember them. Okay? They usually come after a vowel. One of my favourites within the French is the quality of the TH sound and the what happens as in the changes that happen. Now, this sound is not used in the French language. You don't have it as part of your spoken language. So it's going to feel a bit challenging to start off with. All you're doing is placing it's what we call a dental fricative. So you're using the teeth, and then the consonant is basically a quality of air fricative that is continuously working through friction. So how it works is place the tongue tip slightly over the bottom teeth, and all you're doing, excuse me, messing around with my microphone there, place the bottom teeth just to gently hold the tongue in position. Nothing much, doesn't have to be a lot of pressure. The top teeth, conversely, come on, over the top of the tip of the tongue. Wow, that was articulate. Right, come over the top of the tip of the tongue and gently hold onto the tip of the tongue. But there should still be movement, or a gap, a slight gap for air to flow through the teeth. So here we're going to try it again. Let's just be very clear. Let's talk about effort levels. There is no requirement for you to make this really strongly, just cleanly and clearly. So when I say strongly, I don't want to see anyone doing this. Yeah? Firstly, that's an awful lot of effort. Secondly, guess what you just did? You pressed your top teeth down on top of your tongue, and it made it hard for that air to go through. So you went, puts an awful lot of pressure on the body. Doesn't need it. All you have to do is just blow air through that little space above the tongue tip. And we would use this sound in the words think, things, okay? Or even in the mid-word of Arthur, through, okay? So what can happen sometimes though is, depending on where that sound is, I've heard it changed into an S. So if I said thick and thin, forgive me, this may sound like a generalization, but I've also heard in French pronunciation of English, sick and sin. Yeah, so the th sound turns into an S sound because it's close, so you kind of think that'll do. And let's just put it this way. It's understandable. But if someone doesn't understand what you're doing, as a French person changing sounds into English, what will happen is they'll sit there and go, what did they just do? What was that I just heard? They'll go into their head, they'll think about it, they'll process, that's what they're saying. And then they'll re-engage with you. That takes about 3 seconds, by which time you've kind of finished the thought, or the sentence, the phrase that you were saying. So they will have missed out on that information. So just please be careful of that. The TH in a mid position, I said through before, forgive me, that was incorrect of me. That was at the beginning of a word. But the TH in the mid position, something like Arthur. I've heard it used, very rarely would I ever hear the word Arthur that wouldn't be the case. But what I have definitely heard is acteur, acteur. So the TH becomes a T. Be mindful of this. When you see a TH, you will usually pronounce it. Okay? When we look at the voiced version of the TH, we're doing exactly the same thing what we did with the voiceless TH. So we're doing, but we're just adding some vibration from the voice. And what's happening here? We're just engaging the voice, and it's traveling through the tongue into this exactly the same position. So we're just getting a little bit more vibration. Now, what I have heard here is sometimes I have heard the change happen from a TH in words like this into this, yeah, which can again affect the quality of understanding from the listener. So be careful. I've heard it as this and even this with a D. So be very, very mindful of the changes in that. Okay? So let's have a look at what we've done. We've looked at the French R and the English R, the differences between the two. The English R is very firmly placed at the front of the mouth. The French R is placed at the very back of the mouth. The light L, that is used definitely within the French language, but also the inclusion of the English dark L and the importance of remembering how to make that banana shape within the mouth. We also looked at the voiceless TH and how it can be transposed into an S or a T. We've looked at the voiced TH and how it can be transposed into a Z or a D. One of the things that I would say to any French speaker, speaking in English, excuse me, is the importance of, because of this tight space that you're working on, one of the things that I would say to you is be mindful that when you're using this tight space, you're not allowing the tongue tip to articulate middle consonants. So the sounds can be very swallowed. The quality of those consonants is really important. So even if you are using that sexy French R, you must still always use the quality of the definite quality of those particularly plosive sounds like P, T, K or B, D, G within your English pronunciation. It's very, very important so we don't lose those. Something like facilitate, or corroborate, negotiate. Yeah, be careful. Sometimes those words can get really swallowed and we really don't want to lose that quality of that sound. It helps with our understanding. So, focus on middle consonants, and I promise you, even with the quality of the French R, which may want to swallow it, if you're thinking, I need to get those consonants very clearly throughout the word, it will make it a lot clearer. Okay? So, that's what we've got with French to English pronunciations today. This is just an overview. It's not an exhaustive seminar, and it doesn't replace one-to-one training. And if you're interested in one-to-one training, please have a look on the website, look at what we do as far as one-to-one individual coaching is concerned, and by all means make inquiries, call us up, and we'll be more than happy to help. Thanks.